Returning to our top story, the deadly shooting spree in Tumbler Ridge earlier this week. We're going to talk about the investigation and the challenges that police are facing. Joining me is Peter German, lawyer and former RCMP Deputy Commissioner. Peter, thanks for being here.
Good morning.
Getting into this too a little bit more, I think one of the big questions that people have is how these guns again, we believe are involved in this shooting ended up back in a home of a person who police had many interactions with and apparently who was, again, suffering from mental illness. Can you walk us through the process of when those guns are seized, how the owner of them can petition for them to be returned?
Yeah, so first of all, there are a lot of unanswered questions at this point that really impact on that answer. So first of all, whose guns are they? Who was the owner? Are those the guns that were previously seized? Are they the same guns that were used in the shooting, and so forth? Those are all unknowns at this point. But bottom line, what we do know is that firearms were removed from the residence and they were returned under some form of legal process, whether that is by the court or by the police. We don't know that either yet. So it's a bit too early to draw any conclusions. I think we all agree that it's unfortunate that there was easy access to firearms. But in terms of how they got there and stayed there or were returned there, is yet a question unanswered.
Yeah, generally, Peter, too, so maybe, outside of this specific case itself, would it normally be a judge who would rule on having those guns returned and police would testify at something like that? Or would it be police that would make that determination themselves?
It could be both. It could be either. And there certainly are provisions in the criminal code for the detention of firearms, in fact, for their forfeiture, and that would normally go through a court. But there are also other processes. If, in fact, someone had possession of a firearm that didn't belong to them, belonged to somebody else, maybe the legal owner made a case for its return. But again, it's too early, and we don't have the actual facts here.
There's some reporting in the New York Times today that details the suspect and the shooter's history of mental health challenges, their social media presence when it comes to, apparently discussions at least involved when it comes to substance abuse possibly as well, and their journey, again, on transgender and some of the gender-affirming care that they were going to go under. All of that, I'm assuming police are looking at as well when it comes to, finding a possible motive for this shooting.
Sure, of course. I mean, there's only so much that the police can answer in terms of motive. It may well be that health professionals will have to engage in that, and that's something that the coroner will be looking at down the road. But certainly there were apprehensions under the Mental Health Act. The perpetrator was taken to a medical practitioner of some sort and was, again, returned. And most people are returned in those circumstances, either with medication or once they appear to have stabilized. So yet another area that the police are chasing down. And yes, social media is alive with all sorts of issues. A lot of it is hate-filled. I mean, we really have to emphasize the victims at this point, and that's what our politicians are doing. The rest of this, the why and the motive, will all come out over time, but it may take a while.
How long do you think, Peter, too? And again, it's hard. I know each case is different, and this is going to be a very complex case. But generally, when do you expect to hear from investigators possibly about as we get into this? Are we talking about months?
Well, look, the commanding officer and the district commander have been pretty good with media. They've been out front on this and given a lot of information. So I think, and now we have victim, we know who all the victims are, so they've released those names. I think the police have been fairly forthcoming. The exact details and motive may take quite some time, but I think the police are going to wrap up the chronology of events and deal with what their involvement was with firearms and with the apprehensions fairly quickly. And like I say, then it becomes a case for the coroner. Will there be a public inquest and all of those issues? But the police involvement goes only so far.
Mm-hmm. Former RCMP Deputy Commissioner Peter German. Peter, I really appreciate your time again. Thanks for joining us.
You're most welcome. All right.